Hello and welcome to another Naughty Egg Draw. I'm your lovely host Jake, and today I'm going to be taking the animatic that was made in the last video and creating the final line work for the final animation. This should be a lot of fun, so how about we get into it? So starting off in this section, I'm doing what I did when I made the animatic, and I started with isolating the body of the character first, so I had something to work off of. Now when I finally get to the final animation, I take the body and convert it into a symbol by selecting the line work and right-clicking on it and going to convert to symbol. What this does is it isolates the entire final animation into its own workspace. This way you aren't so overwhelmed with all the layers of your animatic when you're starting to add layers for your final animation. I like to break down the body of my character into multiple parts when I'm animating them, making a layer for the main body or frame of the character, a layer for each arm and leg, and a layer for the objects that could move independently like the glasses. This helps a lot with managing a lot of moving parts. It makes it easier to edit individual parts without affecting everything else. It may look a little cumbersome, but if you're starting to get more serious about animating stuff like characters, I suggest you slowly start utilizing more and more layers in your animation. Now that we're at the final line work of the animation, we're going to want to take the movements that were made in the animatic and start smoothing them out. It helps when you're doing this by having your onion skin layer on, which is the little button right up here in your timeline. This way you're able to see the past layers and future layers in a more transparent form, and it's adjustable by sliding this slider here, left or right. As you can see, I'm really animating only the body right now. I want to make sure the body is in the right spot before animating anything else. Mainly because if I have to completely readjust the body after animating everything along with it, I would have to go back and adjust everything else as well. And that's just extra time added to your animation process. And if any of you watching have animated before, adding extra time to your animation process is not fun. Now just remember that now that you're out of the animatic stage and you're actually doing the final animation work, you really want to slow down and take your time. I know it's all a fast forward and it's hard to tell that I'm taking my time, but this section doing the line work alone took me about 3 hours to complete. And people wonder why animators have no life. Now something that I want to point out when you're working off of your animatic is that you can actually break model a little bit with your animatic as you work. The animatic is just something to work off of. In areas like this one where the animatic I was giving the character some anticipation with its crouch down, I took it a step further here and really made it scrunch down compared to the animatic. This really helps with the motion of your characters and make it not feel so static and stiff with its movements. Now this doesn't mean that you have to break away from your animatic all the time. That would defeat the purpose of doing all the work that you did in your animatic. It's just something to keep in mind when you're animating. It's your animation, so take some creative liberty with the changes you make in your work. Something to keep in mind as well when you're at this stage is to play your animation a lot. Even if it looked pretty smooth with your animatic, you may notice that some parts don't look as good when it's refined. You want to test play areas after you finish doing them so you don't have to go back later on in the process and change it all. Again, something that helps you save some time in your work. And at this point, I am finally getting to the point where I'm animating something other than just the body. And this is where things really start to feel like they're coming together. Something I used to do a lot when I first started animating was I rushed to get all the parts moving right off the bat because I always felt like the animation wasn't getting anywhere. But what happens when you're too worried about what the end result of your animation is going to be, the end result of the animation isn't going to be as good. You're rushing to see what it could be and not focusing on each task as it's presenting itself, and making sure that each task looks its best before proceeding any further. And this is still something I do sometimes when I'm working on art in general. And sometimes I have to remind myself that I'm doing it. Sometimes you have to take a step back from your work and really admire what you've actually completed already and not overthinking about what hasn't been done yet. Now right here I am starting to work on the walk cycle, and a tip I can give you when working on walk cycles is to think about the arm position just as much as the leg position. Your arms will normally move opposite of each other when you're walking. With that, your arms will also move with its opposite leg. So in short, if your left leg goes forward, your right arm goes forward, meaning that when your right leg is behind your body, your left arm is going to be behind the body. At this point where he jumps, I made sure to add some squashing and stretching to the character to really help with the look of momentum. If you aren't sure on the understanding of squashing and stretching, I'm going to leave a link to an older animation tutorial I did where I go over the basic animation techniques like squash and stretch. But in short, all this is really taking your character and squashing and stretching it before bigger motions. If you're squashing something vertically, you're going to want to make sure you stretch out the sides in a horizontal way in the same amount, and vice versa. But at this point, I'm pretty much doing the same stuff that I was just doing before, but with the other arm. So I'll keep this sped up and I'll see you guys in a little bit with some more tips. Now when I got into the walk and run cycle for this, I was able to fix some of the issues that I had in it from the animatic, but I still wasn't super thrilled with the final outcome of it. I had been working on it for so long that it looked pretty good to me at the time, but after it was all finished, it felt very stiff in its motions. I believe something that could have fixed it was adding a bit more of a tilt to the body when he was moving, and that would have fixed a lot of that stiffness. But like they say, hindsight is 20/20 after all. I by no means hate it. It does come together very well in the end, but you'll always notice the mistakes and things you could have fixed in your animations after you're done. Now, something you won't see me animate in this section is the eyes of the character. Normally I would do the eyes in this section when I'm doing the line work of my animations with any other character, but with this one the eyes were just a solid color, so I just wanted to wait until the coloring stage to do this. And for any of those who maybe missed the first part of this video, this animation was made for a second channel I'm doing for fun, where I'm doing some game stuff like talking about upcoming games, theories of games, and a little bit of gameplay stuff as well. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, make sure to go over and check it out. I'm going to leave a link for it in the description. And for any of you anime fans out there, I'll be having a video coming out pretty soon where I'm playing the new Jump Force game on that channel as well. And in case any of you are wondering about this little animation series, it's going to have one more part where I'm adding the color to the animation and finally exporting it. So make sure you keep checking back for that upcoming video. But I don't have a whole lot left here to do. At the end of this process, I'm going to be checking out how it all looks together, so stick around for that. Alright everyone, that is it. All the line work is done for our final animation. I think it's really starting to come along. And I hope that some of the tips in this video helped any of you guys who are creating your own animations. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video till the end. If you haven't yet, make sure you smack that sub button and hit that little bell button so you guys know when I'm posting these videos. And like always, keep grinding until next time. Bye!